around the Gesla Care list. Next week, we have housing for him and a return ride, but we don't have anyone yet to pick him up next week. But they're also 1, 2, 3 more weeks in this month. So anybody that wants to sign up, please do.
I am the backup, so I will, and I don't want to take anybody else's spot.
Right. And I'll remind you all once again about our humble little donation bowl. The donation bowl is how they are built. If you so feel inspired, we'd love to have that. Also, if you're inspired to make a monthly donation, then the person with whom you need to speak is John. And he can set you up for monthly donations if you're interested in doing it. And that's it.
Thank you, Eloise.
Oh, I think the book is also making its way around for illness and Alzheimer's and recent death. I'll pass those down.
So good afternoon, everyone. Again, it's lovely to see all of you. Thank you for joining today. And as usual, we will start. With the good intentions for being here. We can think, reflect, contemplate purpose of our life is not only just to be concerned with just our own well-being. That will be too limiting our own potentials. Therefore, the purpose of this life is not only concern with one's own well-being, but to be concerned with the well-being of all sentient beings. And to be able to be help benefit as much as we can. And even though there are so many different ways we can be help benefit to others, the greatest help and benefit we can do is to help them to overcome their own afflictive emotions, negative emotions. And to help them to find true everlasting inner happiness. And to be able to help them in that way with our own direct experience. We ourselves need to reduce and overcome those, all the defilements, all the afflictive emotions. And actualize all the positive and in order to generate all those positive state of minds, we need to practice, reflect, contemplate correctly, continuously. To study and learn. They all day become cause and condition to increase and improve positive state of minds for the spiritual realization. It may be cause and condition to achieve our highest potential, fully awakened state. So we can be greatest benefit to each and every sentient beings. Okay.
For our opening prayers tonight, before the teaching, we will start with praise the Shakyamuni Buddha 3 times in English. To the founder, the Indian transcendent disclosure, the one gone beyond. To the founder of the endowed tender destroyer, the one gone beyond the indulgence prayer, the completed, perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and perfect conduct. To God, the holy word, the great God of human beings, retain. Be done God to human beings, to you the complete and fully awakened one. Ye God of the destroyer. The glorious conquer, the subdue which conquer, and prostrate make offerings the refuge. To the founder of the endowed and destroyer, the one gone beyond, the fellow destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect knowledge and good conduct. To God the glory, and God in the things retain. If there were lies in human beings, to you the complete and fully awakened, they go to the glory of Son. We'll do the short mandala offering once in English. This ground, and no vision for king, spirit of ours, I build on the land. For I rise and and honor. May all living beings enjoy this herein. On the next page, we'll do refuge and bodhicitta prayer. Once in English, twice in Tibet. I go for refuge until I am mine. May I become the now it is in the son will I begin to get into show.
이제 교장님께서는 더 덤제 방배제 담배 주는 데 보담대로 차차로 So we have been for last few weeks we have been discussing about the mantras and going through some of the importance of common mantras, and we discuss about the again meaning of the mantras, how to use it, purpose of reciting mantras, the benefit of that all. And also we discuss about the meaning of the particular mantras, Buddha Shakyamuni's mantras, and we also discuss about the Avalokiteshvara's mantras as well. The Buddha of compassions. Again, as I mentioned before, when we try to cultivate loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind, if we rely on this particular deity, Avalokiteshvara, that is the manifestation of all the comparison of all the Buddhas. So then, it becomes very helpful, beneficial for the blessings to be able to actualize the quality within ourselves. Also to get inspirations. And as I also mentioned, also it's very good to practice. Recite the mantra of Mani Padme Hum, for anyone who passed away, whether it's a human being, animals, and then dedicating for their better rebirth. As possible. And then today we discussed a little bit about the loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta that are part of the method. And then to develop that wisdom, because those two are the key to be happy and key to achieve enlightenment. The way why we suffer, why we feel hurt and suffer is because of our ego, our ego mind, because of our self-grasping and selfish attitude. Due to those two, then we feel hurt, we get sad, we worry, and also many other afflictive emotions arises: anger, resentment, attachment, jealousy, pride, all these, and that's how we suffer, And so, in order to stop from suffering and to stop the cause of those sufferings, then we need to go to the very root of them, and the very root of all this is the self-grasping, ignorance, and the selfish attitude. And we can overcome the selfish attitude by cultivating true love, compassion, bodhicitta mind. And we overcome the self-grasping, ignorance by cultivating the wisdom. So those are the whatever different form of Buddhist practice we do, different form, different aspect, or different meditation, different practices we do, they all are directly, indirectly kind of to lead towards cultivating that wisdom and the bodhicitta mind. And so that being the case, therefore, if we rely to develop that wisdom, if we rely on higher energy, the Buddha of the wisdom, then it has special connections. It has very special connections. And due to that special connection, then it's more easy to cultivate that quality, the wisdom within our mind's stream. to our meditation practice by relying on that deity, by using the mantra of that deity, Manjushri here, and by seeing the Manjushri and our Guru, Rup Guru, inseparable oneness, making the request to guide us, to lead us, to bless us, to inspire us. Within our mind, just like Manjushri. And you find, both Avalokiteshvara and Manjushri, not only within the Vajrayana Tantric practice, you also find within the Sutra Mahayana practice. And also in a, yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to. So many of you probably recognize that this is how Manjushri looks. Okay.
Who's that?
Manjushri. Okay, the Buddha of the wisdom. Manjushri is but this is the more common, the okay. And kind of the
Geshe-la, you're frozen, or John, we can't hear or see. He's frozen.
which is the root of all the activity emotions, and thereby it overcome all the darkness of all the delusions, especially the ignorance, even the color, even by the color itself, the yellow colors, and the one he. Here, that with the right hand is known as wisdom sword. Again, just the sword can cut. We need to cut it. This wisdom sword cut the ignorance. So it symbolizes cutting the ignorance. ornaments. So this just give you a little bit, just little idea, maybe we will practice just to get this little bit of visualizations, what Manjushri look like. Okay. Um, Normally, when we do the practice, we start with some kind of homage prostrations. So, for example, you find some different verses of doing that. But one of the verses is, having a youthful body, lighting the lamp of exalted wisdom, who illuminates the darkness of three worlds, prostrate to the Manjushri, So we make homage, prostration, and make offering to the Manjushri. Okay. And then the mantra of the Manjushri, as you can see, is here. The 4, number 4, Ara Padanadi. I don't know whether you have
We have copies of them on these tables. Yeah.
Bill, you need. If you need, I think there is. Yeah. So that is the number 4. Manjushri, the Buddha wisdom mantras. So here the mantra is Om Ara Padanadi. Okay. Om Ara Padanadi. And the meaning of Om Ara Padanadi literally is meaning, the wisdom ripening the sentient beings. The wisdom that ripening the mind stream of sentient beings. Okay. So again, as I mentioned at the very beginning, we rely on Manjushri to develop the wisdom. And then, in some teaching, they describe about 7 kinds of wisdom, 7 types of wisdom. Okay. Of course, there can be many wisdoms. Wisdom relies on emptiness. Wisdom relies on conventional reality and ultimate realities. Wisdom of helping and benefiting sentient beings, but generally, especially when you do the practice in relation to the Manjushri to develop the one wisdom is great wisdom. And the great wisdom is that which is unimpeded in discerning the meaning of the infinite scriptures. That is what great wisdom. And the clear wisdom, second one is clear wisdom. And the clear wisdom is which is able to clarify all the details, subtle and difficult point of the scriptures without mixing them up, So when we read or when we study scriptures, sometimes there are very subtle and difficult points, and sometimes we are unable to understand those the wisdom which quickly cuts through the non-understanding, misunderstanding, and doubt, about the meaning of the scriptures. Meaning of the scriptures, Sometimes we have doubt. Sometimes we have misunderstanding. Sometimes we have no understanding. And that quick wisdom help us to overcome those and to be able to understand without any doubt, without any misunderstanding, and fully understand, and the profound wisdom, the profound wisdom, which is unfathomable in discerning the meaning of the scriptures. So yeah. And then wisdom of the fifth one is wisdom explaining the Dharma scriptures, and then sixth one is the wisdom of debating, analyzing the meaning of the scriptures. And then, seventh one is the wisdom of composing, writing. So, of course, we can practice to develop all those wisdom, but especially if we feel like, I want to improve and develop, whether it's the, great wisdom, clear wisdom, quick wisdom, profound wisdom, or any other wisdom, debating, composing, explaining, so we can just emphasize on that particular wisdom. And many practitioners and teachers have mentioned, even one of my teachers, he also mentioned, he did a retreat on the Manjushri. And after he did found some changes, positive changes in his ability to analyze things, in terms of the scriptures, So there have been some teachers who have explained with their own direct experience when after they did some retreat in relation, they found some changes in the improvement of their wisdom. And relate, you can integrate with the Guru Yoga, and then like in Guru Yoga or Panditati, at the end of that, there is that is meditation as well. So one can integrate with Guru Yoga as well. So Om, I'm not going to explain so much. We already explained last time, all the mantras, we start with the Om, that's I can, 3 letters, A, O, Ma, that symbolize the enlightened body, speech, and mind. And that is the result that we want to achieve, or transform our unenlightened body, speech into that enlightened body, speech, and mind. So that is the Om, And here it says, so represent the direct understanding of nature of the phenomenon, So it's the represent the direct understanding of nature of phenomena. That is the, conventional ultimate nature of phenomena, Ra, Ra, represent the understanding of emptiness. Here it says from the, Hinayana point of view. So when you say Hinayana point of view, when you say Hinayana, there can be Hinayana practitioner and there can be Hinayana tenets. Here is referring to the tenets. Okay. Not the practitioner themselves. When we talk about 4 tenets in Buddhism, there are 4 tenets or school of thoughts within the Buddhism. Bhavasika, Sautandrika, Siddhamadara, and Madhyamika. The first 2 are the tenets of Hinayana, and the second 2 are the tenets or school of thought of Mahayana. And the presentations of the emptiness in those first 2 schools are more gross level of emptiness or selflessness, not the most subtle level of emptiness or selflessness. Their presentations in that school of thought. Whereas the presentations of selflessness or emptiness, according to the mind-only school and middle way school, especially the middle way school, is the most subtle ones. And so therefore here it represents that, and then he said, so Arapa. Pa represent the meditations. It represents the meditation, and there are 2 types of meditations: analytical meditation and non-analytical meditations. Non-analytical meditations, is like, placement meditation or shamatha meditations. You just try to keep your mind to one object, whatever that object might be. It can be breath, it can be nature of your mind, it can be image of the Buddha, whatever. You just keep that objects and not have any other thoughts. Then there is analytical meditation, contemplative analytical meditations, And so that is vipassana, shamatha and vipassana, Shamatha is non-analytical meditation. Vipassana is analytical meditations, where you analyze what is the nature of self, how does self exist, analyzing what does self means, what is the nature of phenomena. So analyzing that, so that there are 2 kinds of meditations. Okay, so Pa present the meditations. Sa, like Aramadapasana, Sa represent the important samsara and nirvana. Important samsara and nirvana. And the both nature of samsara and nirvana, ultimate nature is emptiness. Due to not realizing or understanding emptiness, we are caught up in samsara. When you realize the emptiness, then you're free from the samsara and achieve nirvana. Due to not understanding the emptiness or ultimate nature of the self and phenomena, due to not understanding that, then we have the ignorance. Due to that ignorance, then we have those afflictive emotions, anger, attachment, so forth. Due to those afflictive emotions, then we engage in the actions, karma. We engage in action and create the karma. Due to the karma, then we continue to circle in the samsara. On the other hand, when you realize the ultimate nature of the self and phenomena, the emptiness, then you cut the ignorance, the root of all the delusion. When you cut the root of all the delusion, other delusion do not arise. When there is no more delusion arising, then you don't create any action or karma out of those delusions. And when there is no more karma to circle in the samsara, you don't circle in the samsara. And therefore you get free from the samsara and achieve nirvana. So arapata the na here says present the karma. Present the karma. So from Buddhist point of view, our experience, whether it is a good experience or bad experience, pleasant experience, unpleasant experience, is a result of our own actions, our own karma. It's neither created by creator agency, whether it's God, or neither is created by the Buddha or someone else. It's creation of our own mind. Due to our negative mind, we create negative action, negative karma. As a result of that, we experience pleasant, painful experiences. Due to such positive karma and action, then we experience pleasant experiences, joyful, happy experiences. So therefore, in Buddhism, there is no concept of being rewarded or punished. Do you get it? Your happiness is not a reward given by someone. Neither your suffering is being punished by someone. It's your actions. How you act, how you engage. For example, if I put my hand on the fire, I will burn and I will suffer, and it's nothing to do with punishment. I was not mindful, I was not careful, I was ignorant to put my hand on the fire. That's why I was born. Burn, not born, burned up. Same, when I feel hot, then just being in with your understanding. There's a breeze here, there's a shade here, and there is an air condition here, and with that you put yourself in that situation, in that places, and then you are able to receive that. That is cause and effect. Do you get it? When you when you engage in certain cause, it has certain effect, certain consequences. That's what karma is. So all our experience, pleasant, unpleasant, different experiences we go through is a result of our own action, our own karma. Sometimes it is easy to identify the action karma immediately. Sometimes we might not be able to identify exact cause or actions for that experience, but there is always some actions or karma created in the past. So that not represent that, the karma. And the D is the syllable of the Manjushri, D is the syllable, the sixth syllable. So it's like last time, Om Mani Padme Hum, Shri. Sometime in certain traditions, Om Mani Padme Hum Shri, they recite like that. In some tradition, they only recite Om Mani Padme Hum. Okay. And when you recite Om Mani Padme Hum Shri, then you also recite the sixth syllable. Shri is the sixth syllable. Here the sixth syllable of the Manjushri is the D syllable, D letter. The nature of the phenomena, the ultimate nature of phenomena, that's the view, right view, help us to recognize the correct path. And then the meditations is the actual practice through which we develop the experience or understanding of the path and leading to changing our mind and feeling. And activity is combined with wisdom, actions, compassionate actions, combined with the wisdom, give us the capacity to help sentient beings in effective way at the right time. And the result, the fruition is happiness and courage, resulting from accomplishing the virtuous intentions. So in other ways, in one way, here it explains the right view, the meditations, and the actions. Okay. The right view is emptiness or dependent arisings. Okay. Everything is empty of inherent nature. Everything is dependent arisings. Nothing can exist independently. Everything is dependent arisings. Everything is empty of independent arisings. Because everything is dependent arisings, not independent, but dependent arisings. That is the view, The meditation is the tool to have the realization of that view. The meditation is the tool, the path to have the spiritual experience or spiritual realization that realize that right view, the emptiness. With the meditations, when you have that realization, direct realization of emptiness, through that dependent arising, then you engage into actions or compassionate actions. Kind and compassionate actions to be help and benefit to sentient beings. So that is the right view, the meditation, and the actions or the conduct, So again, all the teaching can be again, or the practice can be contents or within those three practices, or can be presented from those three practices, like loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, the kind act, the compassionate act, bodhisattva act, they all are part of the contact or part of the actions. So that is what it represents, especially the wisdom. So just like last time, we try to visualize the Manjushri, for example, when you do the practice meditation, and if you can visualize clearly, that's wonderful with each of the details. And again, as I mentioned, if you cannot visualize you're visualizing not very clear, and you cannot visualize clearly, don't worry about that. Just feel the energy of the Manjushri there. Present of the Manjushri there. That is, and then again, when we do any of the daily practice, always good to see that particular deity here, Manjushri, one or inseparable from the Guru. Is your root Guru in that form. Saying them one, inseparable. Also seeing the Manjushri here is embody all the other Buddhas, or all the Buddha's wisdom. And when you visualize, you also try to visualize three-dimensional alive, and more kind of rainbow body, light body, not a concrete like our body. And then, at the heart of the Manjushri, then you visualize the moon cushion, and on top of the moon cushion, in the center is the D syllable, and then surrounded by Om Arabhajana, the Manjushri mantras, surrounding clockwise, and all of them, standing in terms of the ladder, they are standing. Again, if you can visualize each ladder clearly, it's okay. If you cannot, again, just think that they are there, and they are transparent. Then white light nectar flow, clean to purify all the in the form of orange light nectars, and especially receiving the wisdom, especially receiving all the wisdom, especially the seven wisdom, all those seven wisdom, and the wisdom realizing the emptiness directly, So one can do that while you are chanting that, and you can do again 3 times, 7 times, 21 times, 1 mala, 3 mala, 10 mala, how many ever, At the end, Om Arabhajana, Om Arabhajana, Om Arabhajana. At the end of that, how many ever you do, then you do as message without in one breath. How many ever you can do it in one breath, you try to do that. So in one breath. And when you do that, you can visualize from the Minzu series, the D letters, SID D letter from that is like, nectar of that D letter coming and going through that, and your tongue is like going down there, your heart, D is like a plant that needs water, and it's some drop of water. And with that drop of water, this plant become awakening, and started to grow, Same with that did in our wisdom. Because we do have the wisdom seed, we have the Buddha nature, we have the wisdom seed, and that has been fully awakened, the wisdom fully being awakened, refreshed, and so yeah. So that is a little bit on Benju Shiri. Yes, please.
So if you just use the D, does that incorporate all the other meanings of our opportunity?
Not necessarily that I'm aware of, So you try to recite Om Arapatanadi, the full mantras. That how many ever you do, then at the end you conclude or you stop with that D, in one breath. How many ever you can do. And in the morning, like in the monastery, the first thing in the early morning when the monks, young monks, they get is everyone is reciting, like that, that is what they start with morning, His Holiness Dalai Lama also sharing a story, he said when he was very young, I think he said like he was like 4 or 5. He went to Kumbu in western part of the Tibet. I think it's the western Amdo area. I don't know whether eastern or western exactly. Where Lam Tsongkhapa was born. And then, in that Kumbu monasteries, His Holiness say, the monks were these young monks all reciting that, and he was very impressed with that, even though he didn't know anything meaning of that and that. And he also started doing that, anyway, even when you were young, when you get that morning, that is what we try to do, because you need the wisdom to study, learn in that, and so that is one thing. Okay, yeah. So we'll have a short break, and then I can take some questions later if there is.
Yeah, questions.
Anybody wants to answer that? You're right.
Yeah, especially like not so much in town, but kind of like skirts a little bit. So they have really big accents to it. So it took me probably like 6 months to kind of pick up on things. Yeah, I wasn't got that purpose.
Can you?
I would never make it up.
She was a wonderful daughter. Here in Mexico. Her mouth was, you know, her mouth was always covered. She was a great mom. You know, disgusting. Here.
It's-
There's a major leak in the hose, that's one. I've got to come back with some.
Is,
okay.
Do you remember Linda and she used to come here, Linda? She's a teacher at the.
Has she moved out?
No, she lives in Hondo, but this is.
I was gonna ask you if you knew Geshe's son,
He went to school with
who was the abbot at the nunnery at Copan for a few years. He was, during the years they were really doing serious building there.
Carol from Hondo.
Do you know
Oh,
him? Yeah, he had been President Geshe in New Zealand and Auckland, New Zealand, and then he left there. He became the. This must have been nineties. Someone tell a story about it.
okay, any questions? Okay,
I always thought, Geshe, that Manjushri's mantra had to do with dependent arising. And in that sense that everything is always perfect because dependent arising is dependent arising, and it is all based, on the prior thing coming to fruition, and then that becoming the prior thing and coming to fruition. So everything that is happening is always perfect in the sense that it reflects dependent arising, that there is only that dependent arising. And she said about ego then, dependent arising is always seem more like a verb to me, and ego is a noun. So that being in that, the idea of things just again dependent arising. And then you mentioned emptiness along those lines also. And then the other thing that you mentioned, I seem to hear this a lot, and it just may be me hearing it and not really what's being presented. But I always feel like it is presented that you must have wisdom first before bodhicitta, that wisdom leads to bodhicitta. And I've never thought of it that way. Is that what you've said? Or what you're?
There are two presentations. There are two bodhisattvas approach. The bodhisattvas, what you call sharp faculties, and bodhisattvas with less sharp faculties. And there are two different approaches. The bodhisattvas with the sharp faculties, first they have emptiness, under realization of emptiness. Then bodhicitta comes later. Bodhisattvas with less sharp faculties, first they have bodhicitta, and then they have wisdom realizing emptiness. So among the bodhisattvas, some of them first have emptiness and then bodhicitta, some of them first bodhicitta and then emptiness.
Would you care to name names?
Mhm.
Would you care to name names?
Well, in scripture they talk about sharp, bodhisattva with sharp faculties and bodhisattva with less sharp faculties. The bodhisattva with sharp faculty, they're always cautious. They always analyze. So even before to have the bodhicitta mind, the wish to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, First, they will analyze whether enlightenment is possible or not. Can enlightenment be achieved or not? Unless they feel enlightenment possible, they will not develop the wish to achieve enlightenment, because that is the way their mind works, the way their mind, they always approach it, analyzes, always, And so when they try to analyze whether enlightenment is possible or not, then emptiness comes, Enlightenment is possible because, in the nature of everything is emptiness, and therefore the delusion are temporary. They are not in the nature of the mind, but the delusion are temporary, and the nature of the mind is, ultimate nature of the mind is pure, undiluted, whereas ignorance is mistaken mind, whereas the wisdom realizing emptiness is unmistaken, which is rooted in the truth. And so when they understand all of that, then they see, enlightenment is possible because delusion can be overcome when you have realization of ultimate truth or emptiness. And once they feel enlightenment is possible, then they feel, then they develop the wish to achieve enlightenment. So that is the approach of the sharp mind or faculty also. But the bodhisattvas, the other bodhisattvas who are not sharp, they might not analyze that way. So is more of feeling, is more of feeling, they feel the love, they feel the compassion, they see the suffering of the sentient beings. And through that, seeing that, they focus more on that first, and then through that they develop the bodhicitta mind, and then later, then they have the realization of emptiness.
So Buddha, when he first saw suffering, when he saw people, when he left, the palace and the beautiful life there, it was suffering that he saw, and that is what began my impression. That is what, then he started, with the analytic and with the meditation and whatnot. But it began as far as I, am determining for myself alone. It began with compassion when he saw suffering. I mean, he didn't start with the, again, intellectual. It seemed from my own reading and whatnot that it started with his seeing suffering and experiencing compassion.
Even the presentation of Buddhas, they are different, according to different school of thoughts. In Mahayana school of thought, Buddha was already Buddha, even he came to this world. He just showed that aspect to guide us that he was already Buddha. Of course, from other school of thought, he was not Buddha, he was Bodhisattvas. He was in Bodhisattvas on what you call the path of propagations. And then from there, he achieved enlightenment in this life. But from the Mahayana school of thought, he has already achieved enlightenment before. He just came in this world to teach and guide us. So he was already enlightened before he was. So there is two way of understanding that.
That the Mahayana interpretation that he was always enlightened.
Not always, but he was already achieved enlightenment. He wasn't always, but he already have achieved enlightenment before he came to this world. Just like they'll say, like Maitreya Buddha, he's in the waiting to come this world so following the Buddha's path, Buddha Shakyamuni path, he's already enlightened, but he is now in Tushita. And when the time comes to come to this world, he will come. But he will also go through the same like Buddha, being born in a certain family and having a lay path, with the families, and then leaving the families and then becoming a monk and then going meditation 6 years, and through meditation then achieving enlightenment. And he will also go through that whole similar 12 deeds. we call 12 Dids, and he is in the first Did now, in the Tushitas. So according to Mahayana, that is their way of presentation, their understanding. So there is slightly different, but I don't think there is a contradiction anyway. It's just either way. Mahayana also, just like them, they also went through that. Buddha was not a Buddha from the very beginning. He was ordinary being, just like ourselves. Whether Buddha Shakyamuni or whether Maitreya Buddha, all of them were just ordinary with their delusions and with karma, negative karma, and all of that, And so, but there shouldn't be any contradictions, because some people analyze more, some people follow their heart more, some people follow their mind more. Even in all of us, we don't have same approach. Some people if you ask them when they make decisions, they follow their feelings. Some people, they follow their heart, their feeling, how they feel about it, not thinking so much. Some people think a lot, all calculations or all the planning. Well, if I do this, this will happen. This, they follow this mind more than the heart. Some people follow the heart more. Just that way, there will be both sides of us a different approach, who would like to analyze things before they make a commitment. And then there will be other bodhisattvas who will make those commitments first because of their heart. And then they make those later analyze things, So therefore, and both approach, there is nothing wrong with that. And for some of us, maybe first have bodhicitta. For some of us, maybe have the wisdom realizing emptiness, and then have the other way around. There's no contradiction. It's just different approach of different people because of their state, their way of the way their mind functions. Yes.
Usually, so when you're saying the Manjushri mantra, or Viswanati, is it good to visualize the orange color or all the different meanings of all the different mantra words at the same time?
Mhm. We know, as I mentioned, when you do, it depends on how long you do it, Like if you are doing a long session to mantras, like in retreat, then you can do all, at the very beginning, cleansing, purifying, and then receiving all the blessings. And then, then you can even do a meditation on emptiness, contemplation on emptiness, while you recite the mantras. So you can combine so many meditations, analytical meditation on emptiness, and the visualizations and recitation of mantra, combining both the mantra and the lambrim, and especially here because it's related with the wisdom, then really meditate on the emptiness of the self and phenomena, but when you have very short time, then sometimes you can think of the meaning of the mantras and try to feel it. Sometimes you can do the visualizations of cleansing, purifying, receiving the blessing of body, speech, and mind, especially receiving the blessing of the wisdom. Sometimes you can do that. Sometimes you can just recite and just focus on the sound itself, the mantra itself, Sometimes you can visualize receiving all the blessings and all the wisdom, and then once you receive it, then you try to send it back to all other sentient beings, Then from your heart, they're sending all the wisdom, and then dispelling the darkness of the ignorance of all sentient beings, and then leading them and then giving them the wisdom light, So it can be different meditations, and so there are so many different meditations when when you do different sessions, long session, you can combine many of them in one sessions, but when you don't have them, you try to do any of them, and especially whatever you find most helpful, beneficial to individual, you can try to do that. Yeah. Okay, I'm coming on to yes.
So, actually in the eighties, in our Buddhist center in Auckland, New Zealand, there were a couple who had a Down syndrome baby. And when this little boy was about 6, the only people that could understand him were his parents. And the rest of us, it was just kind of garbled to the rest of our ears. And Geshe Sangpo, who was the resident teacher there, taught him Amorapa Sanadi. And he taught it to him, and this little boy said it all the time. And within about a year, we could all understand him. His voice, he had the cognitive power now to speak. And after about a year and a half, he was out playing with kids his age, doing the things that they did, because his cognitive powers were so increased by his saying Amorapa Sanadi all the time.
Yes, please. Subject of discussions among the school of thoughts. How do you define sentient beings? There is one discussion about one particular plant. When you touch, it and like that, it affects whether that is sentient beings or not. So anyway, from Buddhist point of view, anything that has consciousness or the mind is sentient beings. Okay.
So it could include plants. You're allowing it to include plants.
If they have the mind, consciousness, then yeah. Normally we believe the plant does not have consciousness or the mind, but I cannot say for sure. I think and that is the difficult part, is to see this plant has mind or consciousness or not, and that is where I was saying there has always a discussion, even among the different school of thoughts, about certain plant. Just like you say, when someone touches, they respond differently, or they might respond, according to different other factors, So just it seems like they have almost like consciousness. But then, of course, certain school of thought, it is not because of consciousness, but because of some other factors that they respond or act that way. So they don't have the capacity to think like the mind itself.
There's been a lot of research lately about trees where they protect each other, they help each other, they converse. And of course, we all know what a good block and forest will do for us. So I believe that there's something.
As I said, there has been some among different schools, not just now, like 1,000 years ago, they have had all those discussions. But whether they have the mind or not, whether they have consciousness or not, the Buddha advised, not to destroy them. Okay.
Yes.
If you need to do them, respectfully. For example, like when you need to cut a tree for certain ceremonies. You know, they do a ceremony before they cut the trees. There's a ceremony to ask permissions to the local spirit of that tree, whatever, asking the permission, doing some ceremony, making offerings, and then they cut. There is that kind of respect, that kind of interactions. That is how, you know, even for some of the rules and regulations for the monks, you know, we are not allowed to pluck plant just like that, or dig earth, you know, unless it's important. If you have to do it, then, you know, respectfully, and then with that kind of, you know, so there is advice of that. And of course, in some teachings, they also talk about, you know, even though the tree itself does not have consciousness, but there are living beings who live in trees. There could be a certain spirit, there could be certain others. So if you destroy them, it's destroying the home of those beings that who live in that, who rely on that. And so from that perspective, then again, you know, respecting and not destroying them unnecessarily, carelessly, you know, that. So that has, regardless whether they have mind or not, you know, we have to respect and take care of them. That is Buddha's advice, you know. And I don't know where, I think I saw somewhere, I think I don't remember where the sentient beings has to be something that has ability to move. And I don't know how accurate that, you know, in one of the definition is, if it has the consciousness, then it will have the ability to move from one to another, one place to another. So I don't know, but also there is a descriptions in some of the sutras about ordinary beings sometimes cannot differentiate ordinary plant and being who look like a plant. And so there are many stories like that. And the Buddha was able to identify them, the differences. And then he identified and talked about that, you know. So sometimes to us, it might look very similar, same, you know, tree and another living beings who just look like a plant. And a plant who doesn't have consciousness, or another being who is conscious but who just look like that plant. And sometimes we might not be able to differentiate for a lot of ordinary beings. So also that is why also we have to be more careful and respectful in that way too, because we don't know whether that is consciousness, not whether that is sentient beings or something ordinary, just a plant, you know. Okay. Yes, John.
Mary Lutz has a question on Zoom.
Yes, please.
Yeshua, thank you so much for the teaching. A friend of mine sent me a Manjushri Tanka from Dharamsala. I just got it. And so my question is, like with the statue, like we have to get the statue filled to activate it. What about with the Tanka? If I'm not near a center right now to get it blessed, like, can I still use the Tanka?
Yes, you can still use the Tanka. Normally, you know, because you cannot feel the mantras, at the back side, you write Om Ahum, Om at the crown, Ah by the speech, throat, and then Hum by the heart. So you can look the Tanka and then you can see, you can kind of, what do you call it? So normally that is what we do, you know. Om Ahum, you write that Om Ahum. And then, so yeah, definitely when you get the opportunity to consecrate, bless it, yeah, definitely you can ask, but even without that, you can still use it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions? I don't know whether we should do the practice. I guess maybe we should very quickly. Without, maybe we will do the, yeah, okay. So just try to make yourself comfortable, relax. And then, you can think and visualize all sentient beings surrounding yourself as vast as space. And in the space above you, you can visualize Manjushri, yellow color, which color is yellowish or orange, with the right hand holding the wisdom sword, left hand holding a lotus. On top of the lotus, there is the Ratnaparamita Sutra. And in sitting posture, he is wearing the celestial garment and all the ornaments. And he is inseparable from our Guru. And he encompasses all the Buddhas. And he's the manifestation of all the enlightened wisdom in that form. And in his heart, we visualize white moon disk. On top of that, in the center, is the D syllable, DC syllable. And surrounding them is Om Arabhazana in the clockwise. And all the seed and mantra are standing and transparent and making the sound, that mantra sound. And Manjushri looking with the compassionate eyes, always ready to help, guide. Then we make a strong request to Guru Manjushri to guide us, to inspire us, to bless us, to show us the path, to develop enlightened wisdom like himself. And Manjushri delightfully accept our request to guide and help, inspire and bless. So as we recite, Om Arabhazanati, then from the these seed and garland of mantras, white light nectar flow into oneself and cleansing and purifying all the illness, sickness, all the negative karma, delusion, obscuration, especially cleansing and purifying the self-grasping ignorance completely. Om Arabazana De Om Arabazana De Om Arabazana De Om Arabazana Om Arabazana De 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 Om Arabazana Om Arabazana De 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 Om Arabazana Om Arabazana De. As the white light and nectar flow from the garlands of the mantra and these 6 syllables, cleansing, purifying completely all our illness, all the negative karma, all the delusion, all the obscuration, especially the darkness of the ignorance completely being cleansed, purified. And our whole being become like a transparent without any trace of any negative energy. As we recite more from the mantras and garlands of mantra and the syllable, orange and light nectar flow into oneself from the crown, and then from the bottom, fill up, receiving all the blessing of enlightened body, speech, and mind, all the spiritual realization, especially highest level of wisdom, realizing emptiness directly, just like Manjushri himself. Om Arabazana De, 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 Om So you visualize all your body, every cell, every atom, feel that wisdom atom, wisdom cell. All atom, all cell are made of that wisdom. And due to that, all the spiritual realizations and the wisdom, you are filled with great joy, bliss. try to experience that blissfulness. As we recite one more, you visualize from part of yourself, that wisdom, enlightened wisdom, sent light of ray of light of beam in 10 directions of all sentient beings and eliminating the darkness of ignorance and all the delusion completely. Just like the when morning sun comes, it eliminates the whole darkness. Same way, eliminating the darkness of all sentient beings. By that wisdom in the form of beams of light. So then we dedicate the virtues of marriage due to all the virtues that we have created, may we achieve the Buddhahood of Manjushri and lead all sentient beings to the state of that Manjushri. Yawadi Yudu the Lama Sankirgu and Doji and Tes Tongye Tawa and Moch Maye Panaki Kawanya. So we do the top minor dedications. Yeah.
So, I'm gonna read obstacles, sickness, and death. And if you have anyone to add, you can add it at the end. Because we're just starting a new month. For obstacles, Alyssa, John, Mara, Robin, Dunham, and Peggy. For sickness, Carol S., Gregory, Barty, Phyllis, and Michael. For death, Bo McAllister, Walter Raynard, and Rowan. For our closing prayers, and we'll do the general dedication prayer. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions,
and quickly take the stand of Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. And the children you all once say that is not and we have
On the next page, we'll do the long life prayers for our teachers. Starting with this one, Dalai Lama. In English, the wish granted in which fulfilling jewels,
for every single benefit and happiness in this world. They encounter times it is where all illusions they found and message fulfilled.
And for Osohita Lamia, reincarnation. Venerable one, she is that of all the mothers.
For those who honestly part of this is better than the best. Mindful of the abundance of us, yes, the same way. In the judgment of our destiny, and it be
May our venerable Lama's lives be firm, their mighty actions spread in the 10 directions. And the torch of Losong's teachings dispelling the darkness of the 3 worlds beings always remain. In all future lives, may we never be parted from the perfect Lamas and pure ways of the Dharma. May we gain every experience of the path and stages, and quickly attain the stage of Holy Dharma knowledge.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, thank you. And everyone who on Zoom.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, thank you. Good night,
Good night.
good night, good night.
Good night.
All right, thank you, Mary.